Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing lesson 25 for Wit and Wisdom. So let's get started. Our focus question is, how does Irene respond to the powerful force of the wind? And our content framing question is, how does brave Irene build my knowledge? So in this lesson, we'll begin by doing some intertextual work with the fluency passage, It Fell in the City, and Brave Irene. Then we're going to check about some predictions we made about whether Brave Irene is a story or an informational text. And then we're going to add some more knowledge journals about what we know and what we can do after reading Brave Irene. And then we're going to complete our focus question 4. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And we are going to go to the fluency. All right, so what kind of text do you think this is, It Fell in the City? We've read it several times. What kind of text do you think this is? Well, it is a poem. It is a poem. So let's listen to it, okay? It Fell in the City by Eve Merriam. It fell in the city, it fell in the night, and the black rooftops all turned white. Red fire hydrants all turned white. Blue police cars all turned white. Green garbage cans all turned white. Gray sidewalks all turned white. Yellow no parking signs all turned white. When it fell in the city all through the night. Great job. Okay, so we said this is a poem. Now, based on the sensory words used, what type of weather does It Fell in the City describe? Describes snow, doesn't it? It's about snow falling and everything turning white. Now, how is the weather in It Fell in the City similar or different to the weather in Brave Irene? Well, both stories, there was snow, right? Yeah. And the weather described in Brave Irene is a snowstorm or a blizzard because it had harsh winds. And the weather in Brave Irene is kind of scary, isn't it? Yeah. But here in It Fell in the City, it just seems kind of peaceful, doesn't it? It's calm, it's serene, and everything is just covered. It doesn't sound like there's wind blowing. It just sounds like it's just falling, right? Hey, I like this poem, It Fell in the City. All right, so from here, let's go on into our video. Get it up here for us.
Hello friends, and welcome back to Wit and Wisdom in Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears and I'm excited to jump into our lesson for today. But before we do, let's make sure you have your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need a copy of the text, Brave Irene. You'll also need handout 24A, which is the Brave Irene Evidence Organizer, your Wisdom in Sync journal, and a pencil. We'll also be using assessment 24A today, but I'm going to show that to you on the screen. Pause it now if you need to gather your materials. In previous work, you had a chance to rehearse your sentences for focusing question task 4 using your Brave Irene Evidence Organizer. Today, you will reflect on the knowledge and skills you've learned with that same text. You'll also continue to use the Evidence Organizer to write your sentences for focusing question task 4. Now, before you begin to reflect and write, let's review the question that has focused our work with the text Brave Irene. And that question is, how does Irene respond to the powerful force of the wind? I'll read it one more time. How does Irene respond to the powerful force of the wind? And the question that will frame our work for today is, how does this text build my knowledge of how characters respond to the wind? So you will have a chance to think about what you have learned from working with Brave Irene, and then you will complete focusing question task 4. Okay, friends, remember, after working with each text, you have an opportunity to reflect on what you've learned. And you've done that before in the chart that you see on the screen. Remember, on the left-hand side is where you will write all of the new information that you've learned. And on the right-hand side is where you'll write the skills or the things that you can do as a reader and a writer. So now what I want you to do is think. Okay, so now I want you to think, what did you learn from reading the text of Brave Irene? Think about this. What new sensory and feelings words did you learn? What did you learn about how characters experience feelings? Or what did you learn about the wind? All right, think about all of that. Here's the question again. What did you learn from reading the text Brave Irene? Think. Share your idea with a learning partner or share aloud if your learning partner is not available.
I think I learned that characters can feel a lot of different feelings. What about you? And the wind is really strong in a blizzard.
I really wish I could have heard some of the things that you shared. Let me think, what do I know? Well, I know that the chart we created told me that Irene had a lot of different feelings during the story. So I learned that characters can feel a lot of different feelings during one story. So I've added that to my chart. All right, now let's think about some things that you learned to do as a reader and a writer. What did you learn to do as a reader? How about what did you learn to do as a writer? You could think about what you learned to do with sensory words and feelings words. Think. Now, share with your learning partner or share aloud something that you learned to do as a reader and a writer.
Did we learn to identify sensory and feeling words and understand characters and events? Yeah. And we use sensory and feeling words in our writing, don't we?
Again, I really wish I could have heard what you shared. Okay, let me think about this for one thing I learned to do as a reader and a writer. We've learned to identify sensory and feelings words and how to use these words to better understand characters. And we also learned how to use these words in our own writing. So I added to the chart. Okay, friends, now what you are going to do is you are going to record or write at least one thing you know and one thing you can do from reading the text Brave Irene. Are you ready? Pause the video now to record or write.
All right. So, what is one thing we know? We know characters have lots of feelings, right? So, on what I know in your journal, you can put characters have lots of different feelings. Great. All right. And then what I can do. I can use sensory words to describe a character / scene. So make sure that you get that in your journals, okay? And you don't have to turn that into me, all right? Okay. So now I am going to go back and share my screen. Okay. That.
Okay, did you record it right? One thing you know and one thing you can do. If you didn't, I encourage you to go back and do that. If you'd like, you can pause the video to take a moment to stretch or take a quick break. When you're done, unpause the video. Welcome back, friends. Now we're going to review assessment 24A, focusing question task 4. Listen carefully as I read the task. Write to describe the moment on page 6 when the wind drove Irene along so rudely, or page 10 when the ill-tempered wind ripped the box open. Write sentences that describe what Irene saw, felt, and heard, and how she felt in terms of her emotions using evidence from the text. Checklist for success. Be sure to include all of the following in your response. Sensory and feelings words, including adjectives to describe what the wind like and how Irene felt. All right, remember, you're going to use handout 24A, the Brave Irene evidence organizer that you use to complete and rehearse your sentences. And remember, if you don't have the handout, you should have the evidence organizer created in your journal. Okay, so let's take a moment to review the evidence organizer. The first part of the organizer says to circle a scene from Brave Irene to write about. So you should have either circled choice 1, the wind drove Irene along so rudely, or choice 2, the ill-tempered wind ripped the box open. And remember, if you didn't have a handout, you should have written one of those choices in your journal. Okay, the next part. Write sensory and feelings words to describe what Irene saw, heard, and felt during the scene, and how Irene felt in terms of her emotions during the scene. Okay, friends, now that we have reviewed assessment 24A, which is a focusing question task 4, as well as the Brave Irene evidence organizer, you are going to get ready to describe the scene by writing sentences to describe what Irene saw, felt, and heard. Are you ready? Okay. Now that you know what you're going to write, your classroom teacher will tell you where to complete your work and how to turn it into them. All right.
All right, my friends. So I'm going to pause her. And I am going to escape. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to use page 10 to write about. So let me erase what's behind me. Okay, so instead of giving you 2 choices to write about, I'm going to just give you the 1 choice to write about. We're going to talk about this page here. It says she pounced and took hold, but the ill-tempered wind ripped the box open. The ball gown flounced out and went waltzing through the powdered air and tissue paper attendants. Irene clung to the empty box and watched the beautiful gown disappear. Okay, so what you're going to do there is you are going to write sentences that describe what Irene saw, felt, and heard in terms of her emotions, okay? Using that page there that I just read, I want you to write a few sentences about the ill-tempered wind ripping the box open and carrying the dress off. How did she feel? All right? What did she see? What did she hear? All right. So I want you to write several sentences to that. And that is what you're going to turn in for the grade. All right. So that will be your grade today. So you will need to write that and turn it in. Okay. So that was your focus part. You are still doing your fluency homework, so you still need to work on that. And let's talk a minute about our sensory words. Our sensory words are what? They are adjectives, and adjectives makes a big difference in our writing. It improves our writing so much. So make sure when you are writing your sentences that you're adding those feeling words in there, all right, on how people feel or what things look like. All right, my friend. So that is the end of our lesson today. Make sure to get your writing done and turned in, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.